Buskers in Quebec City are now only allowed to sing songs in French. Americans have been detained for sending Bibles into North Korea, and cocaine use and production hits record highs. These are the weird stories for Monday on the Weird AF News Podcast, the only daily weird news podcast at our disposal. I got 3 kinky stories for you. Kinky! Let's go. Buskers, also known as street musicians, in Quebec City are now required to only play French language music. We have a tourist hub in Quebec City called Petit Champlain. Not only is it a popular tourist hub, but it's also very busy with the busking that goes on. There are now new requirements for all street performers in this area, including buskers, which now must perform in French. Well, so much for the most popular busking song in the world, then. You won't be hearing it there. You know the one. Today is going to be the day when they never hand it back to you. I think that is inarguably the number one busking song, at least from what I've heard in my life. I suppose you'll be hearing only songs in French in this area. The spokesperson said these sites are reserved for French music only in order to underline the 40th anniversary of Quebec's inclusion on the World Heritage Cities list. The reality of francophones in Quebec City and in these particular areas deserves to be highlighted even more this year because of this anniversary. The city said the new rule is part of a pilot project that will be re-evaluated eventually. In this particular article, they interviewed a violinist who grew up in Quebec City and plays in the area, claiming that the capital has become, quote, the most regulated place in the world to play music. He said the rules keep piling up, especially in the Petit Champlain area. He says some of these changes mean a loss in traffic and even income for the musicians. He also says in particular the newest rules in the area regarding French songs are disappointing, considering the sites in this area are in pedestrian-only areas, and thus they are some of the few spots remaining where you can get proper crowds and proper pay. As a francophone Quebecer, he says art should not be restricted in this way. Well, I mean, can you even call it art if all you're doing is really playing cover tunes? Now, I know some buskers, they don't play cover tunes, they play their originals, but let's be real, no one wants that. People want to hear Ed Sheeran songs, Beatles songs. That's what they want out there. That's not really, I don't know. Well, regardless, you can't play those songs anymore in those areas anyways. I don't know how I feel about this. I guess if you're trying to make that area like a sort of a French-Canadian theme park, then I don't see a problem with it. And on the other hand, if you're a busker and all you play is like 80s covers, then, just go somewhere else. Or, I guess you could just turn some of those songs into the French language as well. Has anyone considered that? That might even be pretty cool. Wouldn't you want to hear like Lo Rada, ce soir sur son chanson, ha ha. Lo Rada, kavahuaha son ton. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. I don't know. I'm just trying to find a happy medium so that we can all get along. You know what I mean? Per usual on the Weird AF News Podcast, just trying to solve problems and create peace in the world. At the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. You just have to hear some French songs when you go to a certain area. So what? That might be fun. I don't know. Are there any good French songs? First of all, I only know like one. What is that? Frère Jacques. And then what's the one with the balloons? 99, I love balloons. Are there others? Yeah, obviously there's others. I don't know them. I once got like really high with this super hipster girl, and she played French rap, and it was such a trip. You're thinking like, Jonesy, what does French rap sound like? Are you the type of podcast host that would make an attempt to do an impression of French rap? Yeah, I think you nailed it. It was something like this. Cheese, douche. Something like that, anyways. The article ends with another quote from this violinist who says, while all of this is happening, there's restaurants in the same area that blare American pop music out on their balconies. And that's totally okay? It's crazy. Well, yeah, that's actually a pretty good point. I mean, if the bars are going to blast Guns N' Roses out of their windows in the same location, then I don't know, maybe you ought to get on them as well. Americans have been detained for trying to send Bibles into North Korea. The South Korean authorities have detained 6 United States citizens. Oh, it's South Korea. They were attempting to send an estimated 1,300 plastic bottles filled with rice, US dollar bills, and Bibles over to North Korea by sea. But they were detained in South Korea. They didn't quite make it, it sounds like. Very strange mission. Dollar bills, rice, Bibles. My guess is this is like a missionary trip, and the Bibles are pretty much the impetus for the delivery. But let's keep reading. The U.S. suspects were apprehended in the early hours Friday morning after they were caught trying to release the bottles into the sea from Gwanghwa Island near a restricted frontline border area with North Korea. The 6 Americans were taken into custody after a coastal military unit guarding the area reported them to the local police. The area in question is restricted to the public after being designated a danger zone due to its proximity to North Korea. Activists floating plastic bottles or flying balloons across South Korea's border with the North have long caused tensions on the Korean peninsula. So activists, I guess because of the Bible, they're missionaries is what's going on, right? I assume they're trying to get Bibles to the North Koreans. I don't know why. It's kind of dangerous for them. Aren't they put into a prison if they're caught with a Bible? I should look this up. Okay, a little search shows that in North Korea, the possession of a Bible or engaging in unauthorized religious activities can lead to severe consequences, including imprisonment and forced labor, collective punishment, even execution, even torture. Oh boy, so obviously a Bible is considered contraband, religious paraphernalia. Are the activists aware that they're endangering those citizens as they try to convert them to Jesus? Aren't they the least aware of how Kim Jong-un feels about his citizens worshiping a dead Jew? You would think that they would look that up. They're doing much more harm than good with this activity, but you can't expect them to even consider such things. When you have God brain, that's all you think about, and you don't care about the repercussions of your missionary tactics, even if they completely disrupt a community or spread the old smallpox like they did back in the day. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all about, the rice, that's nice, and the dollar bills sending over there, that's really sweet. I'm sure they could use some rice because they live on a diet of dirt, from my understanding, so pretty sweet. But, being caught with a Bible, that's no bueno. And, I mean, let's be honest, that's not even the literature you want to get them if you're going to get them literature from the outside world. They don't need the Bible. They need some literature that can help them see a different way of life in modernity. Something about human rights and self-government and democracy, those sorts of things that aren't really in the Bible. They already have a daddy. They don't need a sky daddy in addition to this daddy. This daddy already maltreats them horribly. But I also understand, coming from the view of a missionary, you want to target countries where they execute gay people because that's what Jesus would do, right? Now, this article says they are not going to provide any personal details of these Americans that have been apprehended in line with privacy rules, and the U.S. Embassy in South Korea had no immediate public comment about this either. For years, activists have sought to float plastic bottles and fly balloons over the border, sending propaganda leaflets and USB thumb drives carrying South Korean dramas and K-pop songs, a practice that's been banned over concerns it might inflame the tensions with the North. Oh yeah, it gonna inflame the tensions to the North. That's why they keep sending dog poop back at you. Yeah, they send poop balloons. I covered that story. North Korean poop balloons being sent over the border. This isn't the first recent incident of activists in the same area. On June 14th, the South Korean police detained an activist for allegedly flying balloons toward North Korea from the same Gwanghwa Island. It's a popular spot for dropping pamphlet bombs, it would seem. I think you'd have a better shot with not physically going to the border and shooting over pieces of paper or books, but do it through the web, bro. What are you thinking? You don't have to leave the comfort of your own little hacker studio. I'm sure there's ways to get information into North Korea that doesn't require you to get arrested on an island. I don't know. Then there's the whole crazy idea. Now, this is really crazy, but here I'm going to pitch it. Here it is. How about just leave them alone? That could be a way to do it as well. Just let them figure it out themselves. They're shooting themselves in the foot every day. Maybe something will change, but like to think that you're going to change it with your, you know, 80 Bibles that you send over in a basket. I mean, that's just self-delusional. But I mean, what do you want? These are fundamentalist Christian yahoos. They're already delusional.
4th of July savings are here at the Home Depot, so it's time to get your grilling on. Pick up the Traeger Pro Series 22 pellet grill and smoker, now on special buy for $389, was $549. Smoke a rack of ribs or bake an apple pie, this grill is versatile enough to do it all. This summer, no matter how you like your steaks, your barbecues are guaranteed to be well done. Celebrate 4th of July with fast free delivery on select grills right now at the Home Depot. Subject to availability.
Cocaine production and use is at an all-time record high. And congratulations on drugs winning the war on drugs. Drugs, champion and still undefeated. This article says cocaine production, seizures, and usage hit all-time record highs last year, according to the UN Drug Agency, with the illicit drugs market being the world's fastest growing. Illegal production jumped almost 35% more than in the previous year, more than 4 times higher than 10 years earlier when it was at a low. The current surge is mainly due to an increase in the size of the area under illicit coca bush cultivation in Colombia and updated yield data. Global cocaine seizures recorded a record high as well, rising nearly 70% in the last 4 years. They also say the number of cocaine users grew to 25 million, up from 17 million 10 years earlier. I believe that's called our elected officials hard at work. There's a reason they call it the White House, guys. Hey. While Colombia, as we all know, remains the key producer, cocaine traffickers are breaking into new markets across Asia and Africa, according to the report, with organized crime groups from the Western Balkans increasing their influence. North America, Western and Central Europe, and South America continue to constitute the largest markets for cocaine on the basis of the number of people who used drugs in the past year and on the data derived from wastewater analysis. Oh yeah, they get a lot of data from analyzing wastewater. They can see what's in your pee-pee. They can tell if the community is doing some nice party drugs or they're just chilling with some Pinot Noir, Now, the article goes on to give a lot of statistics on the use of drugs, but they're not really speculating as to why there's an increase other than a supply thing. But, I think there's other reasons going on in cultures. For instance, in the U.S. right now, you need cocaine to work those 3 extra jobs in order to get by. So that could be a factor. Also, from my understanding, Gen Z isn't really drinking booze like the other generations. They're doing a lot of narcotics, from my understanding. So cocaine, maybe that's the new avocado toast for them. But good for them, no more liver disease, and now just got to deal with a deviated septum along the way. Now, the article doesn't go into the benefits of cocaine, which I find strange, because there's some benefits. For instance, it makes you want to call your mom, which is lovely. She needs a call. It also makes you think you can rap, even in French sometimes. Cocaine also has a lot of electrolytes, which are very, very helpful for a hangover, so I've heard. It also brings us back to the 80s, which was a great time, right? You guys remember the 80s, don't you? Club 54. I mean, I wasn't there, but it looked like a lot of fun. I just hope we don't get stuck with that really terrible music from the cocaine era, all the disco. You wouldn't think that that's the music you want on cocaine, but apparently people wanted, "Girl, I know you very well. Seen you looking everywhere. Oh, now you take my breath away. Suddenly you're in my life." I mean, that's just, to me, that's not fun. Rage Against the Machine. Now that's cocaine music. Am I right? All right, enough of that silly nonsense. The article does mention that one of the factors could be how the price of cocaine has come down, and it's quite affordable. And if you've seen the price of drinks at a cocktail bar, I think cocaine's an easy choice at that point. I don't condone it. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend hard drugs on this show. I do not. I don't condone it. Neither does Weird AF News. which apparently is a brand. I didn't know that. I guess I got a brand on my hands here, which is a lot of work. But thank God I got cocaine. I can do the work. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't. This is a caffeinated run operation. Okay, that's my fuel of choice, as you know. And thanks to many of my supporters, I get a constant supply of caffeine. All right, I'm going to end this segment with a quote from one of my favorite philosophers, Robert Anton Wilson, the late Robert Anton Wilson, who used to say, you can get the same effects as being on cocaine by shoving talcum powder up your nose, rubbing it in with sandpaper, and then running around your house burning all of the money you can find.
Your burger is served, and this is our finest Pepsi Zero Sugar. Its sweet profile perfectly balances the savory notes of your burger.
That is one perfect combination. Burgers deserve Pepsi.
More than a woman. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I do enjoy the Bee Gees, but not so much the disco. I'm like more of a Massachusetts guy. Okay. Hey, listen, thank you for hanging out with me in the Weird AF News podcast for a brief moment during your day. I hope it brought you some joy or maybe just a distraction from what's going on in the world right now. Keep your head up, though. Don't worry, guys, it gets worse. Let's give a shout out to someone who bought me a coffee off my website, weirdafnews.com. Mark Halikas bought me a coffee over the weekend. Mark's a longtime listener of the show and has purchased coffee before. And he's very generous and supportive. So big shout out to Mark. And he wrote a note. Hey, Jonesy, a little behind on your podcast, so I binged about 4 of them in a row, and I'm almost up to the last Florida Friday episode. I'm trying to spread the word that Weird AF News is worth everyone's time to listen to. Not only do you cover the weirdest stories on the planet that us weird humans can come up with, but you do it in such a comical manner that it has instant appeal. To me, anyways. I bought you a coffee when I first jumped on board, so here's another one. Keep it weird, dude. Isn't that very sweet? What a sweet message. Thank you, Mark. I so appreciate your support and the fact that you've told people about it and your listenership. It means a lot to me. It's like having great listeners like Mark is why I do this. So shout out to Mark. If you guys want to buy me a coffee like the great Mark, go to weirdafnews.com. You can click on the Buy Me a Coffee banner. Or you can join the Patreon as well. Patreon, that's like buying me a coffee every month. I promise I won't spend the money on the cocaine. It's actually not enough to buy cocaine. It's only enough to buy coffee. Although in Los Angeles, let's be clear, barely enough to buy coffee in Los Angeles. But anyways, I'm appreciative to everyone who supports the show. If you can't join any of those services because of a lack of funds right now, totally understandable. You can tell a friend about the podcast or write a review on Amazon or Apple iTunes podcast. Or if you're on Spotify, you can click on the 5 stars and give me 5 stars. I would so appreciate that, and it only takes a second, but thank you. Anyways, we'll see you tomorrow. If you want to reach me in the meantime, maybe you came across a weird story that you think is appropriate for the show. My email's funnyjones@gmail.com. Very easy. You can also slide into my DMs on the Instagram @funnyjones. Okay, thank you very much. Good luck with your life, man.